What's so funny?
Hello and welcome to Ycft. We have just got out of seeing Abigail, which is a World of Vampire horror film directed by the radio silence team of Matt Bertinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette. I can never remember Matt's name.
No, it's an impressive name.
It is a very impressive name, and their use of blood in all their films is very impressive. They're most known for Scream 5, Scream 6, and Ready or Not. A lot of people will compare this movie to Ready or Not. There's a lot of similar themes, but we'll go into that. The movie is about a group of criminals who have kidnapped this 12-year-old girl called Abigail, who is thought to be this rich man's daughter. They basically need to babysit her in this big old house for 24 hours while Giancarlo Esposito delivers the ransom demands to her father. Little did they know, she's a fucking vampire, and shit hits the fan from there.
Snagging the plan.
Snagging the plan. I was very much a driving force around us seeing this movie. You didn't really know that much about it going into it.
Well, I saw the original trailer, which was probably a few months ago now, and I knew like basically what the plot was going to be based on that this was all about a little vampire girl, and there was going to be a bunch of people trapped in a house with her, that, you know, very Ready or Not-esque essentially. And I kind of liked the idea of it, but I wasn't wowed by the trailer. And I think there was a second one, right? But I only saw the very first.
The second trailer was better.
Yeah, I only saw the first one that was released. So I think going in, you were a bit more excited about this than me. Having said that, I really enjoyed this movie. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. That was the best way to describe this movie. It is a lot of fun. So what did you like about it?
Well, I mean, okay, so look, it's a movie about vampires. I think to make a vampire movie now is actually quite hard to do in terms of, like, you know, how interesting are you going to make it? Like, how original can it be? And I think the radio silence team did a really good job. It's also really hard to make a vampire movie scary. And I will say, I don't think this movie is a scary film. It's sort of on par with, you know, Ready or Not in terms of tone and everything else. Like, there might be a few jump scares that get people, but this is not a scary movie. You know, it's got the dark comedy, it's got the ludicrousness of Ready or Not. And those are all things I really, really enjoy. Melissa Barrera, she plays a character called Joey. She's part of the heist crew, and it's her job to be like the sole point of contact for Abigail while she's locked up in the room. I thought she was fantastic. She's a really good actress. Always liked her in the Scream series. She's great. Dan Stevens, equally great. Those two pair off against each other really, really well. They've got this fun dynamic, kind of like the proxy leaders of the heist team, I guess. Everyone else, though, you can tell, like, they're all having a really good time. As I say, like, it's very reminiscent of Ready or Not. You know, we've got the big old spooky gothic mansion. We've got characters that are getting killed off one by one in very macabre ways. Alicia Weir plays Abigail. She's an Irish actress, and she recently played Matilda in the 2022 movie. She was fantastic. She was absolutely brilliant. So performances all round, maybe with, like, a minor exception, were very good. So I just had a good time.
Like I said, the cast was incredible. Alicia, she was brilliant. She played scared incredibly well. Then as soon as she turns into the monster, is amazing. And she is just playing with her food, and I'm enjoying watching her. The ballerina vampire. I really hope she gets more work out of this. And same with Melissa. Like I said to you, does carry a lot of this film. Yeah. And the two of them have like a really good... They bounce off each other quite well.
Yes.
And the rest of the cast is really good. Like I said, Dan Stevens really good. Catherine Newton, we love Catherine Newton.
Yeah.
Our last video was a Catherine Newton film.
Oh, it was? Yeah.
Lisa Frankenstein. I really enjoyed her in this. Will Catlett, Kevin Durant were also really good. Obviously, Angus Cloud, this is the last film he did before he passed away. For me, the standouts, aside from Melissa, are Catherine Newton and Kevin Durant. I think that both of them were really funny and had some of the best, like, just sequences in the movie in general. So when you've got, like, a really good cast like that can bounce off each other, mixed in with this, what was essentially an Agatha Christie story with a vampire thrown in there.
Basically, it is, and then there were none.
Yeah, they even reference it.
Yes.
Mixed in with some really good practical effects and a ridiculous amount of blood. You're going to have a good time. I think you will struggle to find a reason not to at least enjoy this movie. It's a popcorn movie. It's a good movie to watch with your friends. And we have introduced people to Ready or Not before who aren't horror fans and had a good time watching it.
Yeah.
This is that movie as well.
Yeah. There's a very rewatchable quality to these movies produced and made by the Radio Silence team, you know, and they're just entertaining. Like that's the thing. I mean, even though they don't necessarily deliver on the scares, they do deliver on the entertainment value. So I know for a fact I will absolutely rewatch Abigail. I would love to introduce this to friends. So, you know, in the same way I'm going to rewatch their Scream films. I'm going to rewatch Ready or Not for sure.
Apparently this is a remake of Dracula's Daughter, the 1936 one, but it's like very loosely
I would say it's
a remake.
Inspired by it.
Yeah.
It's definitely not an outright remake.
Yeah, from what I've seen, that's not true. So should we go into what minor gripes? Obviously, this is spoiler-free. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, you go for it.
My main gripes are, like, I really like the first 5 to 10 minutes when they're taking Abigail. And I really like when shit hits the fan later on in the movie. But there's a bit right before, not even the middle, just right before the middle, where a lot of the characters are just talking, having a drink, getting to know each other, but not getting to know each other because, you know, they're criminals and there's rules they have to abide by. And I wasn't a fan of a lot of the dialogue, and I didn't really like how a lot of the characters were bouncing off each other when there's other bits in the movie that worked really well, and that kind of just dragged for me. It dragged very early on. That's really my only gripe, because like I said, as soon as shit starts hitting the fan, which is probably about the half-hour point, I was just smiling throughout the rest of the movie and had a really, really good time with it. And I don't know, I'm just being too harsh on those particular moments, but I just remember thinking, I just kind of want to start seeing these characters get killed now.
Yeah. I think it's also, you know, it does need to be said, I think you mentioned it earlier, in that obviously the trailer does give this movie away. Like, that, you know, going into it, if you've seen the trailer, this little kid is not innocent. Like, she is a fully fledged vampire. And I think, yeah, everyone is asking the question how different maybe the viewing experience would have been had that not been revealed, because yeah, it is a good like half an hour, maybe even more into the film before that revelation happened. And it is a good revelation, don't get me wrong, but it's a long time before we get to the scary bit.
Especially as the audience members, you already know, you're waiting for the characters to catch up with what you already know.
Exactly. Yeah. So there is a lot of, you know, just dialogue scenes. There is a lot of this heist crew just kind of sussing each other out. I personally didn't mind that. I think it bothered you a little bit more than it did me. My main gripe with the movie, and I'm not going to harper on this too much, because of course Angus Cloud, he has passed away. He was the weakest of the cast. Yeah, and I think that was meant to be a deliberate choice. You know, like, the character is meant to be annoying. And it just kind of, as I say, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but he was a bit of a downfall for me, unfortunately. There were some moments between the characters, like, more about the dialogue rather than the performances, that I thought, you know, like, we've heard this before. This is kind of like, it's not lazy dialogue, it's just predictable dialogue. It's stuff that we've heard in movies before. And that is another thing with this film. It is ultimately quite predictable. I think, you know, it does cover a lot of, like, familiar ground, and just based on character dynamics, the way that certain relationships are set up at the beginning, you know, like, kind of roughly how things are going to play out, how this is going to end. But I think that the fun is just knowing, you know, how we're going to get there.
The carnage. It's
the carnage that ensues, you know, up until that point. And there are a few surprises along the way, you know, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it is like, there were a lot of predictable patterns that you could see, or I think a lot of, you know, horror fans will be able to see. But that is minor. Ultimately, I did have a really fun time. I laughed out loud in certain scenes as well. The gore is great. There's a lot of stuff throughout the movie, you know, a running theme about parental relationships and distant parental relationships. I think some people might find that quite interesting. My gripes are very minor, to be honest.
I do think this team are really good at balancing that comedy and the horror.
Yeah.
And a lot of the jokes did land for me. You were laughing quite a lot. I was laughing. The audience was laughing at the bits they were supposed to laugh at. There was just one joke that was so perfectly dumb and well-timed that I couldn't help but burst out. Yeah. And that's one with Catherine Newton that I just really, really enjoyed.
I'm always excited to see what the Radio Silence team are going to do next. I did enjoy a particular appearance of a certain character right at the very end as well. That was quite fun. Kind of forgot about that as well for a little while. But yeah, honestly, the standout for me was Alicia Weir. Like, it was just a delight every time she was on screen. She's a great little actress.
I think we also nearly didn't have Melissa in this one. I remember some news about her having to step down from a vampire movie not long before the strikes, and the strikes happened. Oh, she stepped down after the strikes because it interfered with Scream 7, but then obviously all the drama with Scream 7 happened, and it looks like she might get, unless she had 2 vampire films, and I'm getting confused here. I am glad that she managed to be a part of this. I really like what they do with Melissa Barrera here. It's like the best parts of what they did with her in Scream 6 mixed in with some elements that they've taken from Ready or Not.
Yeah.
And she's just really good. I'm very excited to see what she also does next. And I have a feeling they're all going to work together again.
Yeah, I was just reading an article saying that, Alpin and Gillette just adore working with her, and they're very proud of the performance that she's given in this one. Rightly so. She's great. She really is. All of them are, really. I think it was really good casting all round. So yeah, it was a fun ride. Really glad we went to see it. I just can't help but wonder if it would have been a different viewing experience had we not all know going in, this is Dracula's daughter.
Yeah. I can see the temptation which the studio ultimately gave in to show us the hook, because that is the hook that kind of made me go and watch it. I was like, oh my god, this premise is interesting. I want to go watch this. I like the guys who've made it. But yeah, that was the first thought of what if?
What if?
So maybe we just have to, everyone who knows what the film is like, we have to introduce the film to people who haven't heard of it.
Yeah.
And see what their reaction's going to be. Collectively as a community, that's what we need to do. Let us know if you've seen this movie and if you enjoyed it. If you were sitting on the fence about going to see it, hopefully we've pushed you over one side or the other of that fence.
Yeah.
And we will see you next week for our regularly scheduled programming.